Reimagining Success, Episode 1. You're listening to Reimagining Success, the podcast where we help you reimagine your future, designing a life and career beyond the 9 to 5 that allows you the freedom, flexibility and fulfillment that you've been dreaming of. I'm your host, Anna Lundberg. Now, let's get started on those dreams. Hello there, this is Anna Lundberg. I'm the founder of One Step Outside, where we help people around the world create a business and build a lifestyle that brings them more freedom, flexibility, and fulfillment. And today, in episode 1 of the Reimagining Success podcast, I want to look at why we need to reimagine success, why redefine this word, success. And I want to take you back to high school, or at least to my high school, when I was voted most likely to succeed when I graduated, so in my yearbook. And I remember this only recently because I was preparing a talk to students at the same school that I'd been going to. It was actually 17 years after I'd graduated, which meant that I was exactly double the age that I was when I was studying there, and double the age of the students I was talking to. So that was pretty painful. And of course, the million-dollar question was, have I succeeded? Is success really something that you should have achieved by your mid-30s? And what did my fellow students at the time expect of me when they nominated me to be most likely to succeed? Would they be surprised, disappointed if they saw me here today? Am I ever going to achieve the success that my younger self apparently promised to the world? And I've become fascinated by these types of questions in recent years. And I'm actually not alone, because we really live in a world that's obsessed with success, whether it's, Wall Street, the stock market, finance and shareholders and profit and all that stuff, or on a more personal individual level on social media, where people are presenting their shiniest selves in these beautiful Instagram shots of their perfect family, perfect job, and so on. And on Google, the phrase how to be successful gives around 60 million results. On YouTube, I found almost 26 million videos. And on Amazon in the UK, at least, I get more than 360,000 books on the topic. So what on earth is it that these people around the world are looking to achieve as they search for the answer to that question, how to be successful? Now, if you look at the literal definition of success, which is always helpful, you'll actually find something quite simple, which is the achievement of an aim or a purpose. And the problem there is that if we don't know what that aim or purpose is, then we're not really going to achieve it. We won't know if we have achieved it, and we're probably going to end up somewhere completely different. And often, unfortunately, that purpose is inherited really from our parents, from our teachers, from our peers, from society, from TV. It's not our personal definition. So I'd love to ask you, when you're listening, what do you think of automatically, don't think too hard, when you hear the word success? Do you think fame and fortune? Do you think some version of that American dream with the big house and the nice car, the prestigious job and the perfect family? Do you think of professional success specifically, becoming the CEO of a big corporation? Do you think making it, whatever that means for you? And I imagine that we all have some kind of pretty standard or generic idea, really, of what success means if we look at the superficial level. But did you ever actually stop to think about what success means to you as an individual, you personally? And as much as our perception of success is probably going to be pretty consistent, it's really a function of the society and the time we live in. So if you're listening to this in another country, not in Northern Europe, then you may well have a very different perception of what's successful for you. It's because of our parents, our teachers, the education we had. And of course, these days, it's also TV programs, films, advertising, telling us all the things that we need. And social media, again, those best shiny selves that we're presenting. However, if we dig into the history of success, I think we find something quite interesting, and we see how this has really evolved over time, and in particular the relationship between work and life and purpose and all these things. So if you look at the ancient Greek word for work, it's ponos, which actually also means toil, distress, torment, which is pretty horrendous. And that doesn't sound like something that's success for me. And certainly the ancient Greeks and Romans as you may know, valued leisure and art and philosophy. Of course, they had slaves doing the manual labour, and male, female were not equal and so on. I'm not in any way glorifying this, but just highlighting that it was a different time. And again, leisure, art, philosophy were seen as the highest forms of fulfillment and what we should really be spending our time on. Fast forwarding, I'm going to skip a few centuries there and go to the Protestant Reformation in the 16th century. And we come to Max Weber, maybe pronounced, and his Protestant work ethic. So it was all around diligence and punctuality. And Martin Luther as well, where we were supposed to be serving God. You certainly shouldn't change the social hierarchy in any way. You'd stayed in your father's profession. You shouldn't, try to change career and find something else. Then we get to the Industrial Revolution, where we began to work longer hours thanks to the introduction of artificial lighting. And we had Ford's factory and, very automatic process. It wasn't so much about skill and craftsmanship anymore, and it became more around discipline. And you were an anonymous, tiny piece of this massive process. There certainly wasn't any space for purpose or fulfillment in that scenario. And actually, the 9 to 5 that we may criticise now and may try to escape, in fact, and I've certainly tried to escape the 9 to 5, the 40-hour work week was actually a good thing. It came about thanks to trade unions to cut down on work because people were working much longer hours. So really that was intended to be a better way of structuring a week, working only 5 days a week, working only those 40 hours. And that also is why most of us, and I say us now, those of us who are in our 30s or so, have inherited those beliefs from our baby boomer parents' generation. Work hard until retirement, enjoy the security of a job for life, get your pension, and so on. And I'm sure that sounds familiar to you. And what's interesting now is that digital technology, of course, means that we can work all the time. So that 9 to 5, of course, is definitely not the 9 to 5. When we say we want to leave the 9 to 5, we're really leaving the 8 to 8 or 9 to 9. I don't know. So depending on how you're working, some people even work, night shifts, so 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. But it certainly is flowing over those boundaries and it's not so clear cut anymore. And then if we look at entrepreneurs, which is a growing group, people who are starting their own businesses, I think there's two extremes there. On the one hand, we've got the hustle all the time, don't sleep, the Elon Musk, Gary Vaynerchuk kind of ideal, where it's all very successful in the sense of generating lots of money and massive personal brand and so on. But, suffering from health problems, probably not having a lot of time for friends and family and, not having that sleep, which is pretty critical to our well-being. And at the other extreme, we have the Tim Ferriss 4-hour work week and all those social media images of 6-figure entrepreneurs who are on the beach with their cocktail and their laptop where they're sort of typing a couple of things now and then, they're recording pretty videos and somehow making a living, 6 weeks to 6 figures, whatever their promise is as well. And of course, there's this idea of having it all, maybe in particular for women, but I think it's for men and women now that we're supposed to have the perfect family and the professional achievements. And we're supposed to be training for marathons and triathlons. And again, social media, of course, amplifies this. So we really compare ourselves to the best of every single person we have in our network. But again, if you look it up, if you go back to basics, success is the achievement of an aim or a purpose. And that means that you get to decide what that aim or purpose is. So we want to get off that conveyor belt, shake things up a bit. Don't follow that expected path from school, university, job, promotion, marriage, mortgage, kids, without even really questioning it. And really take a step back and think, hang on a second, what am I working towards? Is this really, truly meaningful to me? And am I getting closer to that dream that I have? Because let's think about this. What's the problem with not coming up with your own definition? What's the problem with just kind of plodding along, doing your thing, doing what you're supposed to do and what you've always been doing? Well, I think that you'll work hard to achieve something that may or may not be meaningful to you. So that when you get there, when you actually achieve it, your life may not be any better for it. And in fact, you're probably going to look around yourself and ask, is that it? And what now? What do I do once I've ticked off these things that I'm supposed to have been working towards all my life? And because it's not meaningful and you don't really know why it's important to you, you're unlikely to be fully committed and motivated to work hard to achieve the goals. And so you may not even achieve them. And you're likely to have regrets looking back on your life, by which time, of course, it'll be too late to do anything about it. So again, it's definitely easier to just plod along the expected path and not to question anything. The truth is that it can be pretty unsettling, pretty frightening, really, to what you're effectively doing, question everything you've ever worked towards, your identity, which is often built around your professional achievements, and particularly for men, that's true. And so that can be quite nerve-wracking and uncomfortable. And it is easier to continue on the path that you're on, do the things that people around you are doing and not shake things up, both for you, that's uncomfortable, and also for the people around you, because you're questioning things begins to sort of raise questions for them too, and that can be quite uncomfortable for them. Now, I've come across an Australian nurse, Bronnie Ware, who wrote a book, The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. She worked with people in palliative care, so people really at the end of life, and she collected together the 5 top regrets of the dying. And the number 1 regret, incredibly powerful, I think, is the following. I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. So I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself and not the life others expected of me. And the other 4, by the way, in case you're curious, I wish I hadn't worked so hard. I wish I'd had the courage to express my feelings. I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends. And I wish I had let myself be happier. So what I'd love to leave you with is to encourage you to learn from these people. I certainly want to learn from these people. Let's take their advice, not let ourselves have these regrets at the end of our lives. Let's start to live a life that's true to ourselves now and not wait until, we're sitting in that elderly home and it's too late to do anything about it, wishing that we'd done other things. And of course, in order to live that life that's true to ourselves now, we need to work out what that life looks like. And that life probably isn't going to be working late into the night, compromising on our health, pushing ourselves to burnout, stress, missing our children's football or ballet sessions because of a meeting, working late into the night on that PowerPoint presentation on some crazy deadline, working for clients who don't value our work, working during holidays, evenings, weekends, being constantly on our phones, sitting at the table with our family on our phones, checking social media all the time, and so on. So again, I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. And that's what this podcast is all about, really. It's about redefining success. It's about helping you reimagine success beyond that narrow confine of work and the professional domain, beyond the standard so-called 9-to-5 corporate job and the prestigious job title and company, beyond even sometimes some of those standard things we're expected to do, like get married, buy that house, settle down and have children, and beyond any other kind of expectations and pressures that you feel that you haven't internalized, that aren't actually meaningful to you. So helping you reimagine success so that your definition becomes truly meaningful and, importantly, truly personal for you. And then, importantly, helping you take steps that will get you there. So there'll be a mix of inspiration, big questions like today, really asking you to consider what success means, break down some of those shoulds and expectations and all the inherited beliefs that you may have from parents, from teachers, from society, from TV, and so on. And this is a long process. It does take time. It will evolve over time too. So it's great to check in regularly and not, decide once and for all your definition and then stick to that, because what you're doing then is just the same thing again. You're sticking to a definition that may or may not still be meaningful to you. But on the one hand, inspiration, big picture vision of what success means to you. And then the second important part of that is actually helping you take steps to get there. So practical exercises, suggestions, strategies, action steps that you can take to both reimagine success on the one hand, and then actually get closer to that vision of what success is. And I'd encourage you here to not succumb to black and white thinking. We don't have to think that either I'm over here in this uncomfortable place where I don't want to be with this conventional definition, or I question everything and I change everything and I'm over here in a completely different place. That may be where you want to get to, but don't let that overwhelm you, because here we're talking about little steps. It's all about that one step that we can take to either get a step closer to that definition of success that you have, or to bring an element of that definition that seems so far away into your day-to-day life now. Because ultimately, and it's a cliche, but success really is around the journey. We don't want to postpone our lives until we've achieved some, future state of being. This is an ongoing process. It's around taking steps each and every day to get closer to that and get closer to a life that is true to who you are and not that life that's expected of you. So that is it for episode 1. This is around how to redefine success, or rather why we need to redefine success. And again, that is what this entire podcast is about, reimagining success. Now, next week in episode 2, we'll look at how you can begin to take steps to break down those standard definitions and strip away the shoulds to get back to what's really important to you. So there'll be lots more to come in the coming weeks and months, but we'll already get straight into some practical suggestions next week in episode 2. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you next week. Bye for now. Thanks for listening to Reimagining Success with Anna Lindberg. Before you go, make sure that you subscribe to the podcast so that you never miss an episode. I'll be back next week. I'll see you then.